Salut, bonjour, and welcome to francofille Knits, a creative podcast. My name is Devin, and this is where I document my knitting and other fiber-related crafting. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry at @beaddevin. You can find my patterns and yarn both on Ravelry and Instagram if you search francofille Knits, same name as the podcast. You can also find the group for the podcast on Ravelry if you search francofille Knits in the groups tab. It's where I post my show notes and other podcast related threads and things like that. You can also share, your projects and all that kind of stuff with the group as well. I love looking through and seeing what you guys are making. I know I find it definitely really inspirational or really inspiring, I suppose, when I'm looking for a new project to cast on. I like going through and seeing what you guys are working on. It's just a really, fun way to get ideas for sure. What else? If this is your first time checking out the podcast, hi, hello, welcome. Thanks for tuning in, I suppose. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for choosing to come to spend a little bit more time with me. It's been a week. We are a week in, or 1 week post US election. It's been a week. I do my best to keep politics and religion and controversial sort of issues away from the podcast because this is a knitting podcast, not a politics or general opinion podcast. The election and my emotional reaction to said election have played a role in my productivity over the last week. So, yeah. It's been a rough week. Let's just put it at that. Not a ton of knitting got done over the last week. It's picked up more since last week, right? If we're talking like calendar weeks, this week has been better than last week. I recorded, if you watched the last episode, on election day last week. So basically from Tuesday, right? From after I recorded on Tuesday through to about maybe Friday, I really didn't get a lot of knitting done. I was kind of in a little bit of a fog and funk and basically a state of shock. But life goes on. This is so gonna get edited. Just all the pauses have to get edited out, that's for sure. Hopefully by the time you were seeing this, there are not minute-long pauses between everything I'm saying. But yeah, life is beginning to return to normal. Well, normal without normalizing. We must continue. We must, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so since there hasn't been a ton of knitting that's gotten done here in the francofille Knits studio over the last week, I was hesitant to put out another podcast, but there's some new stuff going on in the shop, and I've picked up some old whips that I haven't talked about in the last couple weeks, mostly because I needed some mindless knitting and some comfort knitting. And I also I'm starting to decorate the house for Christmas. Again, sort of as a mood lifter. This is what kind of tends to happen. I try to hold off until after Thanksgiving every year, but sometimes the mood just strikes. You just need a little bit of early holiday cheer. So a little bit of that to show you guys as well. Some knitting related holiday decorations. So with all that being said, let's just dive right into the knitting content. All right, so I do have one finished object to show you guys this week. And it's a finished object it was a whip that I hadn't talked about in a couple weeks. It's kind of been sitting stagnant after my burst of startitis. And let's see here. This is my hearth-warming stocking. This is a Christmas present for one of my good friends, one of my best friend, Varsha. There we go. So what had been done the last time I showed you guys, I believe, was the I-cord bind off and loop here, and then all of the Fair Isle work was all done. It was just waiting on an afterthought heel and toe. So I went through and did that this week because, you know, a giant afterthought heel and toe, that's some fairly mindless knitting. And I wanted to get this done, right? I wanted to do something nice for somebody who I knew was also having some feels after the election. So yeah, so this will be getting sent out to V shortly. Like I said, this is the hearth-warming stocking pattern. It was part of a Knit Picks kit. The wool is Wool of the Andes Sport in a bunch of different colorways. And I believe it's knit up on size, the pattern calls for size 5 needles, and I use size 6, just to compensate for my normally tight gauge. I haven't blocked it yet. I'm gonna do that before I mail it out, just so that it looks extra nice and crisp, but I'm actually really pleased with how it turned out, and I think Varsha's gonna like it too. Okay, and there's the back. There we go. I didn't exactly follow the directions for the afterthought heel and toe. I just kind of popped one in on my own. I've made this pattern about 4 times before. The first couple I followed the directions for the heel, and it ended up, because the decreases were right next to each other, right, so it ended up with some serious laddering going on, so I decided I didn't really like that, and I ended up staggering the decreases. So it's decrease, knit to decrease, which is what I do on my toes on normal sock knitting. I'm not entirely convinced it's the best method for this project, but I think it looks at least better than having, you know, big ladders there. I also, you know, made sure I closed up any holes there. What else? And then, you know, same thing for the toe, right? Just a normal sock toe, and I, you know, went a little bit shallower than I would on a pair that I'm going to wear, but for a giant Christmas stocking, I think it's just fine. Yeah. So that is the one thing that got completely finished this week, well, minus blocking. I mentioned before, as well, I think a couple weeks ago as well, that yeah, I like making handmade Christmas stockings and giving them as gifts. Like I said, I've done 4 of these, you know, not with the exact same motifs, but the same general pattern. Those all got gifted to my mom. And then I've also done different ones for me and Jordan, right? These are mine and Jordan's. Here we go, you can kind of see the whole thing there. I knit these up, I think 2 or 3 years ago now. I really like these. Different pattern, obviously. You can see they're much narrower, right? A much smaller Christmas stocking. These were much quicker to knit, right? Not only because they are smaller, but they also use worsted weight instead of sport weight. Still Wool of the Andes, and I have to say I really love how Knit Picks Wool of the Andes holds up over time. It just, I don't know, it's really surprisingly soft, and definitely very sturdy. I store these in a Ziploc bag when they're not being hung up, when they're not being, you know, when it's not Christmas time. Keep any, you know, bugs or anything like that away from it, anything that might possibly harm the wool. I forgot to look up what the pattern is, but honestly, if you search Christmas stockings on Ravelry, there aren't actually that many patterns out there, and I went with this I think it was an ebook with like 11 different patterns or something like that on there, and I went and searched for, I picked this one specifically because Jordan wanted a snowman on his Christmas stocking. He's always had a snowman. And so when I was, you know, when it came time to make ours as well, that's why I went with this. I think that's actually, come to think of it, why I didn't do another, like these giant ones for us as well. I think it was that Jordan really wanted a snowman. So I managed to find a Christmas stocking with a snowman on it for him. Yeah. And then this, like I really, really like, I will make sure I link the pattern in the show notes. So if you're curious about what Christmas stocking pattern this is or what the ebook is, definitely go check the show notes on Ravelry. Because I really love, this is the first time, I think the only time I've done one of these sort of rolled hems. I don't even remember what it's called. Whoops. But it's, one of those hems where, it's stockinette on both sides. A little I-cord hanging loop. So this was a new technique for me. I really love how it turned out. And then I went back and I think I'm going to go through and clean it up a little bit this year, actually. Clean up some of these little gaps. But I went back through and sewed our names on. Kind of over stitched our names onto the top of the stockings as well. So yeah, I'm really pleased with them. I love seeing these hung up on the fireplace. Got to figure out which room they're going in this year and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, really, really thrilled with them. Really happy with them, and I'm excited to bring them back out this year. Yeah. Let's see what else. You'll notice that I put the little I-cord loops on ours on opposite sides, right? So they kind of hang like that together in opposite directions. I just kind of liked the look better than if they were to both, because there's only two of us, right? I don't know. I thought if they were both matchy, right? Hanging like that, it would be, I don't know. It didn't look quite as nice. So random little extra details. But yeah, so that is Christmas stockings. And if you celebrate Christmas and you're looking for like a Fair Isle project, or you just like decorating for Christmas, I definitely recommend doing this kind of project. They are, especially because it's like on a worsted weight instead of like a fingering, it's a great first Fair Isle project because it does knit up quickly and it's, immediate gratification, which I think is important in first anythings. But yeah, so let's see. So I got that done this week. The other thing I've been knitting on a lot is my ugly Christmas sweater socks. I think I showed you guys this hoe last week, right? And I am on the toe of sock number 2, right now. Gotta see how this is knitting up. And this was just a one-of-a-kind colorway. Really one-of-a-kind, because normally when I do one-of-a-kind or trial colorways, I'll dye up 2 at a time. I'll just kind of my dye process a lot. It's easiest for me just to dye things in pairs or larger numbers, but if I'm just testing something, I'll just stick to 2. And so there was another skein of this, and after I knit this first sock up, I decided it just had too much yellow and too much white in it, so I went back and I overdyed it and added a little bit more red and green as well. And that ended up getting used as a giveaway prize this last week. I am incredibly grateful for Instagram and for the knitting community this last week. As I said at the beginning of the podcast, it's been a rough week. And I think it's been a rough week for a lot of people. And social media, in some respects, has made it a lot harder. But also, in some respects, social media has actually made it a lot easier, right? And a lot better. I have decided basically to leave Facebook alone over the last week or so, mostly because it's just been such an angry place over the last week. it's almost like I go on Facebook and it just makes me sad and upset and angry all over again, right? But Instagram has been the exact opposite. Not, I don't think necessarily because political opinions or anything like that are any different, or not because the people I follow and interact with are apolitical, right? And therefore not, reacting to the election or anything like that. I think it's just people on Instagram have chosen to be kind and gentle with each other, right? And be loving. And that is how they are choosing to react and move forward and carry themselves. Whereas Facebook, and I'm sure it has something to do as well with the manner in which you post and all that kind of stuff. It's a little harder to post political rants on Instagram. It's still possible. It's entirely possible. But I think it's just the medium of Facebook is a little bit easier to do that kind of thing with. Anyway, all of this to say, I really found solace in Instagram and in the knitting community over the last week. So thank you everyone there. And I'm bringing this up with this sock and this colorway because that other skein I gave away as part of the Knitters Pay It Forward thing that was going around Instagram over the last week. So that colorway has already, or that skein of yarn has already been mailed out, and hopefully the recipient is enjoying it and making their own pair of crazy Christmas socks or whatever. But yeah, so almost done with this sock. That was all very long-winded. Just to say that I'm getting close. I've started the toe decreases. I'm a little disappointed that this pooling effect is what ended up on the top of the sock. I would have rather had the way the colors played around on the bottom of the sock up top, but whatever, they're a pair of socks. It doesn't really matter. One thing I have to say is this yarn is so incredibly soft. I think this is the first pair of socks that I've really made, like pair of socks that I've made out of my own yarn. Yeah, because I did that one sample sock out of Vendange. And I remember then being kind of struck by how soft this yarn is, but I don't know, just kind of playing around with this pair as well. It's just really surprising to me. Because I've knit, I don't know why I'm so surprised, but it's just kind of something that just keeps I keep noticing. This is on my chaussette base, which is a 75-25 blend of superwash merino and nylon. So it's definitely a good sock yarn, right? It's got plenty of nylon in it to give it that strength. And it's superwash, so I mean, you could theoretically run these through the washing machine, on a gentle cycle, but they're not gonna felt up and become unusable, which unfortunately happened with 2 of my knit items this last week. Friends, don't pay attention when you're doing laundry. I have no idea how this happened, how I had a cowl go through the laundry with my sheets and kitchen towels, but it did. Anyway. But yeah, I mean, this yarn, I gotta say, this base actually knits up to a delightful pair of socks. But yeah, so I'm hopefully gonna have these finished soon. I'm planning on finishing them today. And I actually am. I'm not in the mood to knit on anything more mentally taxing than a pair of socks right now. I'm still just kind of, So, yeah, I'm gonna finish up this toe and throw these on, and these are gonna make me happy. They're gonna brighten my mood today, I have no doubt. I think when I finish these, that may bring up that may be my 10th pair of socks for the year. I'm not sure. I'm thinking next week I'm gonna go through my socks that I've knit this last year, just to kind of see, if I want to actually finish out my box of socks, which is Knit Along, being hosted by Kristen of the Yarngasm podcast, Full and Vine Yarns, where the goal is to knit 10 or 12 pairs of socks during the year, and have a nice little box to display them in, right? Yeah, I think I may be close to my box of socks, which is surprising. But yeah, so I've got this, and then I've already got yarn caked up for my next pair of socks. I almost cast on this morning, but decided I have to finish this toe before I cast those on as well. And those will be more Christmas socks as well. I'm just, you know, I'm not even judging myself right now. I am self-soothing, and if that means Christmas socks and simple knitting, that's where I'm at right now. That's what needs to happen. So that is that whip. 2 other whips that got knit on this last week. Made a little bit of progress. I mean, just the slightest bit of progress on Mom's Christmas scarf. This is a brioche scarf that I am just kind of making up as I go. I think I was halfway through this blue stripe here when I showed you last week, so I've gotten another, you know, motif done, almost. Right, so this one's slowed down a little bit, but I definitely gotta pick this one up more often if it's gonna get done in time for Christmas. So I'm heading up to my folks on Monday night for Thanksgiving prep and other kind of family related stuff. So this project is definitely coming with me. Again, as I said last week, Mom already is totally aware of the entire project because I don't necessarily believe in surprise knitwear gifts. Again, that all got discussed last week. So yeah, so Mom will see it as I'm working on it, and that is totally fine. I want to make sure it's something that she loves. So I will be bringing that with me and knitting on that over the next week, which may seem like it is completely contradictory to my previous statement about mindless knitting right now. But you know, it's at a point right now where it actually is fairly mindless. It's easy to read. I've gotten in the groove with the brioche and the shaping and all that. So really, I mean, I'm doing the same exact motif really over the next 1,500 rows. That's hopefully an exaggeration, but it feels like it, right? I mean, I'm just on the straight shot part through the scarf. So really, it is actually surprisingly mindless at this point. Let's see here. Oh, side note, as I'm looking at this, it's reminding me of something else. I'm planning on putting together a bunch more tutorials. I know I've been talking about this and then not doing it. But just the way life is kind of shaping up over the next 6 weeks or so, I'm thinking I'm gonna have time to actually sit down and do that in the upcoming weeks. So right now on my docket, I've got a Fair Isle tutorial that I want to do. I was gonna do a tutorial on how I do my heel flap and gusset in my sock knitting. That one was requested. And then what else? There was another one that I was gonna do. I'm wondering if anybody wants a brioche shaping tutorial. Kind of like how do you go about knitting in brioche and getting these sort of leaf motifs and doing increases and decreases in 2-color brioche. There are other tutorials already out there, but if anybody is curious as to how I do them, go ahead and leave a comment either below here on YouTube or in the show notes on Ravelry. I think there's also a tutorial specific thread, like tutorial request thread on Ravelry. So if there's anything there that you're interested in, or if there's anything that you would like to see in a tutorial, definitely post and let me know. Because I've got my tutorial set up down, I think. So that should be totally feasible and good. Speaking of tutorials, the one tutorial I do have up on YouTube is how I do my Cozy Memories blanket, right? How I get the diamond motif, right, with the miters in my Cozy Memories blanket. And I bring this up because this is the other thing that I actually got some knitting done on this week. Right, and if the lighting is right, you might be able to see that diamond shape going on there. right, really anywhere in there. So, like I said, really mindless knitting over the last week. One of the things I decided to do was to pick this bad boy back up. I'm gonna scoot back a little bit so you can see the whole thing. It's not terribly far along. Let's see, there it is. Right, it's what, 6 by 6 squares. So I've got 36 squares done, plus these two little, the start of a new row here as well. I added 6 more squares on this week. So I finished up this row. So bump, bump, whoop, bump, and this one as well. So this is a Patton's Croix sock yarn that I made socks with this summer. This gorgeous one, I finished this square this week. This was from a mini skein I got from Mina, the knitting expat, in our podcaster swap back over the summer. All right, absolutely gorgeous. These two are both by Lolo Did It. This is the Caterpillar Blues colorway and 85. Right, love both of these yarns. So definitely wanted them in this blanket. And then the two that I just added on as well, most recent ones, are my own hand-dyed yarn. This is Vendange, and this one is a misfit of Summer in Provence. And it's a little bit it's a misfit because that blue is darker than it normally should be. Right? But yeah, so details about how I do my Cozy Memories blanket. I cast on 46 stitches, and then I do 2 decreases on the right side, in the, sort of in the corner. I do a knit 2 together, slip, slip, knit, and you know, some people do a triple decrease, centered, no, what is it? A centered double decrease, right? So you take 3 stitches and turn it into 1, right? And you can do that with a very pronounced ridge right there. Mine is not like that. It's a little bit more subtle. But, yep, the little surprising thing, or a little extra thing about mine, is I do the diamond motif. It's very subtle. Depending on the light, it shows up better or not at all. But yeah, so that involves kind of having to graft edges as you knit. Yeah. That's all I'll explain in my tutorial on YouTube if you're interested in doing yours this way as well. All fingering weight yarn. It's, you know, a scrappy sock yarn blanket. Yeah. It's growing. I think it's seriously been 2 or 3 months at least since I had last picked this project up. It just kind of sits on my, it first was sitting in my whip basket, and now it was sitting on my whip bookshelf. I've reorganized a little bit, as I showed last week. And yeah, I don't know what exactly inspired me to pick it back up this last week, but I just kind of gravitated to it. So I think I've got some more scrap sock yarn from recent projects that I'm going to put in there, including my ugly Christmas sweater yarn. That's going to go in there toot sweet. But yeah, so that's what's been going on there. I think by and large, that's all the knitting I've done this week. If it's not, I don't even remember. Like I said, like Tuesday through Friday, it's kind of a fog. Thank you too, by the way, for the people who've like checked in. I'm not like depressed or like in an unhealthy sort of state or anything like that post-election or anything. It's just kind of shock and attempting to move forward, right? Just got to keep working. I will say, just as a side note, back to the politics just a little bit, that rather than getting angry and picking fights with, or confronting people who I know that didn't vote the way I did, which is definitely something that a younger Devin would have done. I've decided to just put my energy, my time, and my money and all that to causes that matter to me. So I have signed up to volunteer for organizations. I've donated, and yeah, kind of looking to get more involved in my county as well. I am a little dot in a county that does not agree with me. I will say that literally no one I voted for got elected. It's just one of the hazards of living in a place that is very different from where you grew up. Not that it's a bad thing, right? But just one of those things you need to be aware of when moving. That yeah, you may start living around people who fundamentally disagree with you on politics, and that's fine. But yeah, so there are ways to move forward. There are ways to make things better that don't involve shaming people or getting aggressive or anything like that. So the last thing to talk to you guys about is the shop update this week. Yes, first of all, thank you so much to all of you who came out to last week's shop update and really just made it honestly my most successful shop update so far. Thank you. Just, yeah, mind-blowingly grateful to all of you, really. I've been restocking, just crazy busy down in the dye pots this last week, making sure I'm restocked on everything, because I definitely had colorways and mini skein sets and all that kind of stuff sell out on me last week. So if there was something that you wanted in last week's update but you weren't able to get, it is restocked. So yes, you should be able to get whatever it is that you wanted. I also do have something new. So just kind of as a refresher, I've got my 6 holiday colorways. They are, let's see, we'll start here with Fête d'Hiver, right, which is this gorgeous blue and purple variegated colorway with little pops of gold and red kind of speckled throughout. Really just very, very light speckling, just as little pops of interest kind of throughout there. So Fête d'Hiver, or winter party, right? I've got Kir Royal, right, which is a champagne and cassis cocktail that is very festive, right? So it's just a two-tone sort of variegated colorway, right? You get sections, you know, a small little tonal section of purple and a larger tonal champagne gold colorway, right? So that is there as well. Oh, I think I forgot one. There is bûche de Noël, right, or Yule log, which is a kind of cake very popular in France this time of year. So greens and yellows and gold and large, warm chocolatey brown sections, right? Some speckles of brown all over it as well. Really love this one. That was very popular, I will say, this last week. I think that was one that sold out. The other one that sold out was Christmas Lights, which is just a highly speckled colorway, right? Green and red and gold speckles throughout. Sort of half green and gold, half red and gold. So you'll end up, if you make socks with it, you'll end up with micro stripes of red speckles and green speckles, which I'm kind of excited to see, right? And then we have the other super festive Christmassy colorway, which is Mon Beau Sapin, right? Which is another micro striping one, right? You get these areas of tonal green, right? Like a Christmas tree, and then speckles of red, yellow, and blue, right? Kind of calling to mind the ornaments and lights and things. The last colorway last but not least, one that I am, once I get a couple things off the needles, I'm going to cast on with is speculoos, which is a kind of spice cookie that I think is Belgian or Dutch. And so not French, but popular throughout France, especially this time of year. Right, so it's just this really nice, warm, tonal, sort of medium brown color. Right, very warm, very, very, very pretty. I like this one a lot. And I've set aside a skein of this on Normandy for myself for a pair of either mittens or gloves. So all available. These will be available on all three bases. So I'm showing you here on Chaussette. They're also dyed up on Normandy and Bretagne. Right, so my DK base and my 2-ply fingering as well. And the mini skein sets are also going to be back. Those also sold out last week. So if you wanted one of those will be available again. And that's a six skein mini skein set. Each mini skein is about 20 grams, which is about 92 yards. So they're good size minis for sure. Right. Also, I love how speculoos pairs with these other colorways, right? Just really, I don't know. This is definitely one that also is going to be in full rotation with the rest of my tonals, with Slate Roof and Dijon and Citrouille, right, with pumpkin. Right, so this one is going to be a permanent shop edition, I think. The other new thing to show you guys that's going to be in this week's shop update is my next project kit. My next project kit. So we have the Les Fleurs, the sort of navy and lilac and gray one that was last month. There's still a couple of those up there in the shop if you're interested. This is the holiday one. I am obsessed with this fabric. Not exactly French, it's definitely very Scandinavian, which also has a very special place in my heart, just kind of heritage-wise. My mom's side of the family is 100% Swedish, even though they've been here in the US for years and, I don't know, very American. But, I don't know, always kind of been drawn to this sort of thing, so here's the bag itself and the colorway that goes along with it. Another micro striping, color blocked and speckled colorway. You guys, I'm obsessed with these. They're so much fun, right? So you get that tonal red, right? Deep tonal red with then red and gray speckles as well, right? There's some overlap with them, some areas where it's just one or the other. Love that deep red. And then, yeah. So this kit, you know, you get in the kit you get the bag and a skein of the yarn. The yarn is all the Chaussette base. Although, if you wanted it on a different base, right, if you wanted the Normandy or if you wanted it on the DK base instead, send me a note. I'd be happy to make that adjustment for you. I can definitely dye up an extra skein on a different colorway for you, or on a different base. So, love this holiday fabric and the yarn that goes with it. So yeah, that will be available in this week's shop update as well. So shop updates, as always, are Friday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. This week, I believe it is November 18th, 8 p.m. See you there. So yeah, plenty of good stuff. If you're still interested in the fall colorways, some of them have been retired, but there's still a selection from both the early fall and the Les Fleurs du Mal, or Flowers of Evil collections as well. So if you're not feeling Christmassy, totally fine. There's definitely some options up there for you still. But yeah. Okay, all of that being said, I think that is plenty for this week. It's gonna be a shorter episode, but I don't think anybody minds that. Next week is Thanksgiving week. I think just with the logistics of it, you know, being up at my folks all week and all that kind of nonsense. I don't think there's going to be a podcast episode next week. Maybe there'll be a surprise. Maybe I'll get around to doing a tutorial or something like that and posting that next week instead. But yeah, I will see you guys for sure the week after in December. So all that being said, bon tricot, happy knitting. I'll see you soon. Bye.